Typical settings. Mad Max Fury Road. Today I'm going to be analysing the film Mad Max Fury Road, which is directed by George Miller. Mad Max Fury Road is set in a apocalyptic world in Australia, in an isolated wasteland. There's a desert environment where all the car chases and shootouts occur, which suggests the movie is set in a dystopian world where civilization has collapsed. With the isolated setting, this creates suspense and tension in the film, leaving the audience on the edge of their seats, wondering what is going to happen in the next scene. This film has some of the conventions of a typical setting in a thriller. For instance, it's set in a desert where anything horrific can happen. In a thriller movie, this typical setting is normally held in remote places, such as abandoned buildings or wild landscape. This can become unpredictable. Typical characters. Mad Max Fury Road. In Mad Max Fury Road, there's a female hero called Imperator Furiosa, which is one of the main characters in the film. She's a soldier who is independent, resourceful, and willing to keep the 5 wives alive. Surprisingly, she is more powerful than most characters in the film, who are mainly men. She does a man's job of being involved in gunfights and hand-to-hand combat. Instead of Imperator Furiosa being the princess of the film, she's considered to be the main hero, as it's often brave men doing heroic acts to try and save the woman. Furiosa is not afraid to fight anyone by standing her ground, showing no mercy and not giving up. Besides being the hero in the film, she really doesn't rely on any men to protect her, even though she's been chased by a psychotic man. Furiosa is different from the typical character in a thriller film. She is brave and courageous, and she risks her life to save other people. But as the female protagonist, it shocks the audience as she is the main hero of the film, unlike the princess, who needs to be saved. The next character, Max Rokotansky. He is a helper or a side hero of the film. Used to be a cop until the whole world collapsed, then led to his family getting murdered. Now he seeks revenge and has to survive in the wasteland. He's a fearless man who is prepared to fight anyone who gets in his way. He's brave and courageous, a man who decides to help Furiosa and the 5 wives escape. From the main villain, at the beginning of the film, he gets caught between the crossfire with the hero and the villain. He has the ability to overcome obstacles and overthink his enemy. Once he becomes a helper of Furiosa, he goes out of his way to protect and keep his friends alive. This is a typical convention of a thriller film, as normally helpers of the heroes try to protect their loved ones, innocent people who shouldn't be hurt. Finally, the character Immortan Joe is a crazy psychopathic villain who plans to rule the wasteland and lead an army of war boys. He's feared by other people and will torture or kill anyone who stands in his way. This is a typical villain who is more powerful than the hero and helper. Plus, he is full of greed and power, which makes him abuse anything and anyone he wishes to. His main objective is to capture and kill both Imperator Furiosa and Max Rokotansky. His plans and wicked ways make him a cunning thriller villain who is unpredictable, as the audience is unaware of what his next action would be. Again, this is a typical convention of a thriller film, as villains always cause problems for the heroes and tend to be more powerful than them. Spectre is set in popular urban cities across the world, such as in London, Solden in Austria, Mexico City and Rome. The majority of fight scenes and chase scenes happen during the day. For instance, the chase scene in Mexico City at the beginning of the film leads to innocent citizens being caught between their crossfire, also intervenes with normal people's lives. This is a typical convention in a thriller film, as the action and threats happen in cities where normal people are doing normal day things. This can cause a problem for the hero, as they'll need to do the unthinkable of saving innocent people's lives. Furthermore, there's a location for a villain which is in his headquarters. He keeps the hero captive there and plans of killing him. In the majority of spy thrillers, it's set in a normal environment where action is not expected to take place. There's also dark surroundings, which some scenes feature in a spy film, to create an eerie atmosphere. Spectre is a spy movie which has two main characters, which are the protagonist James Bond and the antagonist Ernest Darvo. The hero in this film is James Bond, who is a typical spy detective who attempts to stop the main villain and save the world. James Bond originates from a traditional family with a dark past, a cunning, intelligent spy who specialises in martial arts and handling guns. These attributes are handy as he's always caught in conflict with other villains, which lead him to killing people. But James is normally outstrained by the main villain, so he would need a strategic plan to outthink them. With James' male dominance, he's able to seduce women by falling in love with them. This leads to James having to save the girl at the end of the film. These are the typical conventions used to create a hero in a thriller movie. The hero always needs a villain who has evil, destructive plans or objectives which might be life-threatening. Plus, the hero always faces a life-threatening task which is considered to be nearly impossible. Excitement, adventure and joy are normally what makes up a spy thriller. It captivates and makes the audience engaged in the film. The villain in the film, Ernest Darvo, is a very dangerous man, a big threat towards the hero, James Bond. He's a leader of a terrorist organisation called Spectre, who is involved in life-threatening situations, which can kill many citizens. Ernest's actions brings misery to Bond's life. He's extremely smart, able to outwit many people. Ernest is very unpredictable, making the audience wonder what he has in store, which creates uncertainty and mystery. This is some of the conventions which a spy villain would have, being a strategic villain who plays psychological mind games on the hero. However, he's always relaxed and calm when being physically or verbally threatened. As for other villains, they would act in a violent manner if they are threatened. In addition, Ernest Darvo could be considered to be a typical thriller villain, but then again, he is not like all the villains. He's not physically strong, but he is mentally strong, as he can outwit and outthink his heroes very easily. John Wick. In the film John Wick, it is set in an urban city which is New York, with the colours setting being grey, white and black, which shows how helpless the main characters are in the movie. Plus, it shows an ordinary people living their lives in the city. John lives just outside the city in a small house, away from people, which shows how lonely John is after his wife has sadly passed away. However, when more action is shown later in the film, the other locations are in nightclubs, abandoned buildings, where the majority of shootouts occur. With this film being set in New York, it's a common convention for a thriller film to be set in an urban city, which is very populated. John Wick. The main character in the film, John Wick, is a professional assassin who is very dangerous. He is considered to be the anti-hero in the film, as he kills many people to seek revenge. In the film, John Wick hunts down the villain who has killed his dog, which was a very bad mistake. This is a common convention of a thriller, as the main character is an assassin. But, even though he's less powerful than a villain, he has the ability to overcome dangerous obstacles that get in his way. Although he's the hero of the film, he's doing a villain's job by chasing his enemies down. He can be considered to be an anti-hero of the film. The villain in the film, Viggo Tazaroff, is the crime boss in New York that is trying to stop John Wick from killing his son. Viggo is a very intimidating and dangerous man who will kill anyone that tries to disobey him or even fight back against him. He sets out many people to try and stop John Wick from coming near his son. However, near the end of the film, he has to fight John Wick, as John Wick decided to kill everyone that Viggo knows. Viggo is like a typical villain in a thriller film, as he always intimidates people with his power and greed. But he can come across to be contradictive and hypocritical about John. This is what makes him weak,